Welcome back with us on the news feed. Late night, your reporting continues. The South African Union of Students says students will be taking the nationwide university fees protest to the union buildings. The organization says since the Minister of Higher Education is unable to resolve the fees impasse, they will be taking the fight directly to the president. For more on this, I'm joined now by the SAUS NEC member, Bongani Mahlangu. Bongani, good evening and thank you very much for your time. I believe the minister was engaging with other ministers in other departments to come up with a solution of where money could be reprioritized to fund the cause of the students. Is this much to the union buildings premature?
No, it's not premature. No, to start off, evening, and thank you guys for inviting us. So the march to the union building is not premature because even what you are telling us about what the minister is doing with regards to mobilization of funds in order to fund the gaps that exist in his department, it's something that the minister has not come to us to inform us about. Last weekend, we had a meeting of which the minister was due to attend. The minister did not attend. And then the weekend before that, we had another meeting of which the minister was due to attend. He did not attend. In fact, what he did was he sent his deputy. So as far as we are now with regards to the protest and everything around it, we have not engaged physically with the minister and directly with the minister. So whatever the minister is saying, because even the responses that the minister gave to our 15 demands initially, it's something we learned about on social media and not directly from the minister. Yeah. So this resource mobilization fund campaign of his, it's not something we have been apprised on.
Now, despite, of course, some kind of action around the registration, for example, in universities saying, well, all students will be registered, even those with past debt and so on and so forth. What is at the core of what you would want addressed? I mean, I'm sure you're saying this piecemeal approach to the issue is not exactly what you're looking for.
So basically what universities are doing now is concessions, and those concessions are for whatever debt that would have occurred or incurred by a student for the academic year 2020. So meaning if a student owes beyond 2020, if the student forms part from the 13 billion rand that is owed by students to our South African universities, that debt the total debt the student owes to the institution will not be cleared. So now it's just concessions because you would know last year university did generate savings because of the multimodal remote learning, teaching and learning that took place. And some universities as well have went into their retained earnings to see what they can get from there, plus the savings in order to assist students. So it's a stopgap process. It's not sustainable, and probably by next year, the same universities will not do the same. Yeah. And then as far as historical debt is concerned, it's something that has been there for a while. In fact, probably it's older than my registration, my first registration at any South African university, and that is not being addressed. And that is basically what we are calling for, to say it's time that we come up with a sustainable solution once and for all and deal with this issue, because each and every year, beginning of the academic year, it has to be characterized by protest. Teaching and learning has to be frustrated in order to get students registered. So now what we are seeing now, we do applaud. I think University of the Western Cape was the first to come up with this initiative. But as much as we applaud it, we want a permanent solution to this consistent and persistent problem.
Yeah. So here's the response then. Let me try and quote here from the minister what he's saying. I'm informed by NSFAS that it is working hard to finalize appeals so that students are not prevented from registering in time to start 2021 academic year. But he also says, I urge student structures to continue engaging with the management teams of all our public universities, utilizing the communication structures that are already in place for this engagement. And many of the matters that you have raised with me require that students and university managements work together at institutional level. Now, you're saying you're taking this to the president. Are you not satisfied at the work that is being done at institutional level?
No, we're not satisfied. I mean, even if the minister had to make a citation of something like appeals, it's a totally different process. And it's a one-on-one, a case-by-case process that is dealt with at the university level. Pretty much the general response that you have just made reference to is what the minister said from what we have learned from social media as well, to say the department has no money. speak to your university or respective university would put mechanisms in place to assist students. They're basically saying that does not work. That does not speak to the 13 billion rand that is owed by students, historical debt, and it prevents students from acquiring their qualifications. It prevents the socio-economic mobility of students. It does not speak to that. It does not speak to the stability or instability in terms of policy and leadership within the same NSFAS institution, which is supposed to be the one that rolls out free education in the country. It does not speak to the instability with the other institutions as well that fall under the Department of Higher Education and affect students. It does not speak about the capacity growth in terms of quantity and quality of our universities, and also, it does not speak to government expenditure. In fact, the reduction in government expenditure that started in October last year in the midterm budget policy statement, and then continued into the 2021 financial year, as you would read in the midterm expenditure framework, the technical guides that speak to a fiscal consolidation, or what government calls refocusing government spending, which to us is austerity. So cutting on expenditure of higher education that has been low for some time. It started picking up in 2017 when the government paid the difference, which was university increased the fees, and whatever the increase was, government came and footed the bill. So that means government increased expenditure. And that year, then in 2018, there was free education. 2019, then and up until 2020 when it started to decline, and it's below international standards as far as your BRICS is concerned, BRIC nations are concerned, OECD countries are concerned. So that is what we're basically calling for, increasing expenditure, and increasing of expenditure will come with the elimination of historical debt of 13 billion rand that the current registered or the current students in the system owe about 3 billion rand of the 13. So that means removing those group of students, we have 10 billion rand that is owed by students that are not in the system. And as I said initially, their social mobility is then impaired because they cannot find means to cover that amount. So then they can continue, articulate, or go look for a job. So what the minister is saying from the reference you have just given does not speak to those critical issues that we are raising.
What then do you expect would be the response to your call for this march? I mean, in your previous call, there are disadvantaged universities who said, no, we will not take part because prestigious universities like WITS and the UCT never supported our cause when we needed their support. Are the students united in this cause? There won't be universities breaking rank?
No, universities are united. The students are united. Government has been trying to frustrate that unity, but as a union, we're working very hard together. Even in the meeting that we had in the previous week, it was part of the processes of ensuring that unity remains intact, because we do not want to divide universities and students according to your historical black institutions, which would be your historical disadvantaged institutions, and your historical white institutions, which would be your historically advantaged institutions. Because once we move with those classifications at this time, we'll never achieve our goal, because our goal is for increased expenditure, and increased expenditure assists everyone, because as you have rightfully put it, there's inequality as well within the distribution of income within the same universities, because you would find that your historically white institutions are more research intensive, and they generate a lot more subsidies from the government, and that assists them to sustain their competitive advantage. And your historically black institutions do not enjoy the same treatment from the same government, and then they cannot even grow to the pace, at a pace, and grow to the standard of these institutions. And at the center of all these problems is government that has been failing to come up with mechanisms to ensure that there is equity within the sector and there's equality within the sector, and all our universities are competitive and all our universities are stable, not that